President Trump says he is not happy after Russia launched a massive assault on Ukraine over the weekend, and dozens of people were injured after a car plowed into a crowd of pedestrians yesterday in Liverpool, England. Good morning. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. Stocks opened higher this morning after President Trump postponed his threat to add steep new tariffs on imported goods coming from Europe. NPR's Rob Schmitz has more.
President Trump's about-face is the latest instance of him declaring an impending tariff and throwing global markets into a panic, only to later walk it back. This time around, Trump said he and the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, had a, quote, very nice call that prompted the delay. As recently as Friday, Trump said he was not looking for a deal with the EU and that the 50% tariff would go into effect on the 1st of June. That rate would have come after he had already imposed a reciprocal tariff on the EU in April of 20%, which itself was delayed. An EU spokesperson says there is new momentum behind trade talks with the Trump administration. Rob Schmitz, NPR News, Berlin.
French President Emmanuel Macron says he hopes President Trump's anger toward Russia will translate into action.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time. Always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
Trump has warned of possible U.S. sanctions on Russia after a huge Russian air assault this weekend on Ukraine. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports.
Macron said he hoped Trump's indignation would result in the U.S. coming together with the Europeans for a much bigger sanctions package, one that could, quote, dissuade Russia and finally bring an end to the conflict. He added, I believe that President Trump realizes when President Putin told him on the phone he was ready for peace that he was lying. Germany's new Chancellor Friedrich Merz now says that Germany, Britain, and France will no longer impose restrictions on the use of their long-range weapons. He said, Ukraine can now defend itself by attacking military facilities in Russia. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
Authorities in Liverpool, England, say about 50 people have been injured after a car plowed through a crowd of pedestrians. As Willem Marks reports, thousands of people were celebrating a soccer competition victory by their local team.
4 children were among those injured, with more than 24 hospitalised and several of those still, quote, very, very ill, according to the local mayor. Police have arrested the man believed to be the vehicle's driver, a 53-year-old, but said they do not currently consider the incident to be terror-related. Videos and eyewitness accounts suggest the car reversed, then accelerated suddenly through the crowd after being surrounded and rocked by passers-by. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called the events appalling, but officials have warned the public not to speculate online about the suspect's motives, ethnicity or religious background, as has been the case with other recent acts of UK violence. For NPR News, I'm Willem Marks in London.
NPR and 3 Colorado public radio stations have filed suit this morning in federal court against the Trump administration. This is over the president's recent executive order purportedly barring the use of congressionally appropriated funds for NPR and PBS. The lawsuit claims the administration is unlawfully taking away Congress's right to direct how federal money will be spent and to pass laws. It also alleges this is a violation of the First Amendment. The White House has not had an immediate comment in response to the lawsuit. The Senate has the government spending bill passed last week by the House. It would cut hundreds of billions of dollars from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. Texas Public Radio's Paul Flav reports the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates several million people could lose access to what's also known as food stamps.
The nearly $300 billion in cuts being proposed push the cost of food benefits onto the states for the first time. Northwestern University economist Diane Schanzenbach says if the U.S. sinks into a recession, states with shrinking revenues and must-balance budgets won't be able to afford it.
We'd be setting up a situation where just when people are most needing SNAP benefits, they're hardest to get.
The proposal also increases work requirements on the poor, which Schanzenbach says will push people off the program but will do little to increase labor participation. The Senate will take up the bill in coming days. I'm Paul Flav in San Antonio.
A U.S.-backed group says it has begun delivering food in Gaza to address widespread hunger. The effort is facing criticism from the United Nations and aid groups in Gaza, and its director has resigned, as NPR's Daniel Estrin reports from Tel Aviv.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says it's begun supplying food parcels in a new zone guarded by Israeli soldiers. Israel says the system will deny supplies to Hamas and weaken its control in Gaza. Israel says the food will be mostly confined to a zone in southern Gaza in an attempt to get Palestinians to move there. The UN and groups who have been providing aid say this would amount to forcible displacement and restrictions on aid. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has appointed a new director, John Acri, a former official with the U.S. Agency for International Development. The group has not divulged its funding. Hamas warned Palestinians not to take food from the group. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Dozens of military families are still displaced in San Diego after a small jet crashed into their neighborhood last Thursday. 6 people aboard the plane were killed. There's a lot of wreckage that must be cleared away from the crash scene, and many people still cannot go home. Tony Teravainen is the CEO of the group Support the Enlisted Project. He's linking affected families with social workers.
What we're able to do with those families is have our social workers work with each of those families and kind of help them start to put together a game plan to move forward.
Officials say there was heavy fog at the time of the crash last week. They say the nearby runway lights were not working. There was also a weather alert system that was out of order. Authorities in Louisiana say they've recaptured 3 more escaped prisoners. They were part of a group of 10 that broke out of a New Orleans jail earlier this month. 2 of them are caught in Texas. That leaves 2 prisoners still at large. The jailbreak was brazen. The group slid through a hole behind a toilet. Louisiana authorities allege the prisoners had help in escaping. They have arrested 9 people, including a jail plumber. The Scripps National Spelling Bee gets underway today. NPR's Ava Pukach reports the bee is marking its 100th anniversary.
The first winning word of the inaugural Scripps National Spelling Bee was gladiolus. Only 9 spellers competed that year. Now, 100 years later, 243 spellers are competing across 4 days. As part of the bee, the spellers participate in a vocabulary round, answering multiple-choice questions that Scripps says are designed to advance the bee's focus on word knowledge and literacy. The final round of this year's bee is set for Thursday evening. If the competition goes long, it could feature a newer element of the competition, the spell-off. Each remaining speller gets 90 seconds to spell as many words as they can from a predetermined list of words, with the champion being the speller that spells the most words correctly. Ava Pukach, NPR News.
And I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News in Washington.